Tires screeched so loudly that the sound ripped through the quiet morning like a siren. Doors slammed. Engines idled. Men in black suits poured out of long, gleaming cars that didn't belong anywhere near that broken, narrow street. Neighbors rushed out of their homes, whispering, pointing, recording. Children stood frozen, eyes wide. And in the middle of it all stood David. Barefoot. Confused. Still holding the half-broken door of his tiny house. He blinked hard, like his eyes were playing tricks on him. Luxury cars, dozens of them, lined the road. Black SUVs, polished sedans, even a few exotic cars that looked like they had been pulled straight out of a billionaire's garage. Security men scanned the area with cold precision. David swallowed. What is going on?" he muttered under his breath. Behind him, a small voice trembled. "Dad, are they here for us?" He turned quickly. His daughter, Mia, stood clutching her worn teddy bear, her small fingers tightening around its arm. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear. David forced a smile he didn't feel. "No, sweetheart, it's probably a mistake." But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't. Because all those men, every single one of them, were walking toward his house. And then, from behind him, came a calm, quiet voice. "They're not mistaken." David froze. Slowly, he turned around. The woman. The same woman he had found the night before, drenched in rain, barely able to stand. Except now, she looked different. Her posture was straight. Her eyes were sharp. There was something powerful in the way she held herself, something he hadn't noticed before. One of the suited men stepped forward quickly. "Ma'am, we've been searching all night." David's breath caught in his throat. "Ma'am." The man continued, his voice filled with urgency and relief. "You're safe now." David looked from the man, back to the woman, then at the endless line of cars outside his home. And suddenly, his chest tightened. "Who are you?" he whispered. The woman met his gaze. For a moment, there was silence. Then she said quietly, "I think I owe you an explanation." Just 12 hours earlier, David had been walking home in the rain, exhausted beyond words. The storm had come suddenly, heavy and unforgiving. His clothes were soaked through, his boots dragging against the muddy road with each step. His shoulders ached from a full day at the construction site, and his mind was already racing about the second job he had to get to later that night. Another delivery shift. Another night without sleep. Another day closer to bills he couldn't pay. He rubbed his face, trying to stay focused. "Just get home," he muttered. "Mia's waiting." That thought kept him going. It always did. As he turned onto his street, lightning flashed across the sky, briefly lighting up the road ahead. And that's when he saw her. At first, he thought she was just a shadow. But then she moved. Stumbling. Barely standing. David slowed down. What the? The rain poured harder, making it difficult to see clearly. But as he stepped closer, he realized it was a woman. She was soaked, her clothes clinging to her body, her hair plastered across her face. She looked completely out of place, like someone who didn't belong on that street, in that condition. She took another step, and nearly collapsed. David rushed forward instinctively. Hey. Careful. He caught her just before she hit the ground. Her body was cold. Too cold. She looked up at him, her eyes dazed but alert at the same time. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. "Don't leave me." David hesitated. Just for a second. Because he knew what this meant. Trouble. He didn't have money. He didn't have time. He didn't have the luxury to get involved in someone else's problems. But then he thought about Mia. What if it were her? Alone. Scared. In the rain. His jaw tightened. "All right," he said softly. "All right. I've got you." He helped her up carefully, supporting most of her weight as they walked toward his small house. "You live here?" she asked weakly. "Yeah," he said. "It's not much, but it's dry." She gave a faint nod. "That's more than I have right now." Something about that answer stuck with him. When they reached the house, David pushed the door open and guided her inside. The warmth hit them instantly. It wasn't much, just a small living space with worn furniture, a flickering light, and a faint smell of soup, but compared to the storm outside, it felt like a sanctuary. Mia ran in from the next room. "Dad! You're late, Anne." She stopped. Her eyes landed on the woman. "Who is that?" David crouched slightly. "She needs help," he said gently. "Can you grab the blanket?" Mia didn't hesitate. She ran off and returned with their only thick blanket, handing it over carefully. The woman looked at her, something soft flickering in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Mia smiled shyly. David helped the woman sit on the couch, wrapping the blanket around her shoulders. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She shook her head slowly. "No, just tired." "Do you have someone I can call?" A pause. Then she looked away. "No." David frowned slightly. "No one?" Another pause. "No one, who can help?" Something about the way she said it made him stop asking. Instead, he stood up. "I'll make something warm." As he moved toward the small kitchen, Mia followed him. "Dad," she whispered. "Is she okay?" "I think so." "Is she homeless?" David glanced back at the woman. For a moment, he didn't know how to answer. "I don't think so," he said quietly. "But right now, she needs us." Mia nodded. "Okay." When he returned with a simple bowl of soup, the woman accepted it with both hands, like it was something precious. "Thank you," she said again. David shrugged. "It's just soup." She looked at him. "No, it's not." They sat in silence for a while, the sound of rain filling the room. Then she spoke. "Why did you help me?" David leaned back slightly. "Because you needed help." "That's it?" He gave a small, tired smile. "Isn't that enough?" She studied him carefully. Most people would have asked questions. Most people would have hesitated. But he didn't. "People don't usually help without expecting something in return," she said. David chuckled softly. "Well, then I guess I'm not most people." Mia climbed onto the couch beside her. "You can sleep here tonight," she said sweetly. "Dad says we always help people." David glanced at her, surprised. "Do I say that?" Mia nodded seriously. "All the time." The woman's lips curved slightly. "Then your father is a very rare man." David looked away, a little uncomfortable. "I'm just doing what anyone should do." But even as he said it, something in the woman's eyes told him she didn't believe that. And maybe, neither did he. Later that night, long after Mia had fallen asleep, David sat quietly at the small table, going over unpaid bills. The numbers didn't make sense. They never did. Rent overdue. Electricity warning. School fees pending. He ran a hand through his hair. "I can't keep doing this," he muttered. From the couch, the woman spoke softly. "You're doing more than most people ever would." He looked up, startled. "I thought you were asleep." "I was trying to be." She shifted slightly, pulling the blanket closer. "You work a lot." "Too much," he admitted. "And still, it's not enough." He shook his head. "Not even close." There was a pause. Then she asked. "Why don't you give up?" David blinked. "What?" You're exhausted. You're struggling. Why keep going? He stared at her for a moment, then looked toward the small room where Mia was sleeping. Because she's counting on me. The woman followed his gaze. I see. Another silence settled between them. But this one felt different. Deeper. Then, after a moment, she said quietly. Not everyone would do what you did tonight. David shrugged again. I didn't do anything special. She looked at him. Yes, you did. Her voice carried a weight he didn't fully understand. And for the first time that night, David realized something. This woman wasn't just lost. She was running from something. And by morning, whatever she had been running from had found her. David stood frozen as the last of her words hung in the air. Whatever she had been running from had found her. The quiet street outside his house was no longer quiet. Voices overlapped. Radios crackled. Doors slammed. The presence of power, real, undeniable power, pressed in from every direction. David exhaled slowly, trying to steady himself. You're going to have to explain this, he said, his voice low but firm. The woman looked at him, not past him, not through him, but directly at him. For the first time since he had met her, there was no hesitation in her expression. You're right, she said. You deserve that. Mia stepped closer to her father, clutching his hand tightly. Dad, who are these people? David squeezed her hand gently. It's okay, he whispered, though he wasn't sure it was. Outside, one of the men stepped forward again, lowering his voice slightly as if trying not to cause panic. Ma'am, we need to secure the area. There could still be a threat. David's head snapped toward him. A threat, he repeated. What kind of threat? The woman, no, not just a woman anymore, closed her eyes briefly, as if gathering her thoughts. Then she opened them. My name is Elena Voss. The name meant nothing to David. But judging by the way the men outside stiffened slightly, it meant everything to them. I run a company, she continued calmly. I did. Until yesterday. David frowned. What do you mean, did? She took a slow breath. Yesterday morning, I discovered that someone very close to me had been stealing from the company. Not just money, control. Influence. They had people inside my security team. My board. My entire circle. David's stomach tightened. So, you ran? I escaped, she corrected softly. Barely. Her gaze drifted toward the door, toward the line of cars, the men, the tension in the air. They thought they had me cornered. But I managed to slip away before they could finish what they started. Mia's grip on David's hand tightened. Finish what? She whispered. Elena looked at her, and for a moment, something protective softened her expression. They wanted to make sure I wouldn't come back. David felt a chill run down his spine. You're saying someone tried to kill you? Elena didn't answer directly. She didn't need to. Silence did it for her. David ran a hand over his face. And you just ended up here. Elena's lips curved slightly, though there was no humor in it. I didn't plan it. I just kept moving. I needed somewhere, anywhere, that no one would think to look. She met his eyes again. And then I saw you. David frowned. Me? You stopped, she said simply. Most people wouldn't have. He didn't know what to say to that. Because she was right. Most people wouldn't have. Outside, one of the security men stepped closer again, more urgent this time. Ma'am, we really need to move you. It's not safe to stay here. Elena didn't move. Instead, she turned to David. I will leave, she said. But before I do, there's something you should know. David crossed his arms slightly, bracing himself. What is it? She stepped closer. Close enough that her voice dropped, becoming more personal, more human again. Last night, you didn't treat me like someone important. David let out a small breath. That's because I didn't know you were. That's not the point, she said gently. Even if you had known. I don't think it would have changed anything. He didn't respond. Because again, she was right. She continued. You gave me shelter. You shared what little you had. You trusted me without knowing anything about me. Her eyes softened. Do you have any idea how rare that is? David shifted slightly, uncomfortable under the weight of her words. I just did what felt right. And that, she said quietly, is exactly why this matters. He frowned. What matters? Before she could answer, another voice cut in from outside. Ma'am, we've confirmed movement in the area. We need to go now. The tension snapped back instantly. Elena turned toward the door, her expression sharpening again. For a moment, she looked like a completely different person. Controlled. Powerful. Untouchable. But then she looked back at David and Mia, and that edge softened again. I have to go, she said. Mia stepped forward suddenly. Are you coming back? The question hung in the air. Simple. Innocent. But heavy. Elena knelt slightly so she was at eye level with her. Yes, she said gently. I am. Mia nodded, satisfied. Okay. David watched the exchange, something twisting in his chest. Wait, he said suddenly. Elena paused. You said this matters, he continued. What exactly are you talking about? She held his gaze for a long moment. Then she said something that made his heart stop. I want to change your life. David blinked. What? She stood fully now. I built an empire surrounded by people who only cared about what they could take, she said. And in one night. I lost all of them. Her voice didn't shake. But there was something beneath it. Something real. Then I ended up here, she continued. In a house with almost nothing, and yet, I felt safer than I have in years. David stared at her, trying to process. I don't understand. You don't have to, she said softly. Not yet. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small card, placing it on the table. For now, just know this. He glanced at the card, then back at her. If you hadn't opened that door last night, she said, her voice quieter now, I might not be standing here today. The weight of that hit him harder than anything else she had said. Because suddenly, it wasn't just about kindness anymore. It was about consequence. Life or death. Before he could respond, she stepped back. The men outside immediately moved into action, forming a protective barrier around her. But just before she crossed the threshold, she turned one last time. David. He looked up. Don't let this morning scare you, she said. It's only the beginning. And then she was gone. The cars didn't leave all at once. One by one, they pulled away, the engines fading into the distance until the street slowly returned to its usual silence. The neighbors lingered, whispering, speculating, throwing curious glances toward David's house. But eventually, even they went back inside. And just like that, it was over. Or at least, it looked like it. David stood in the doorway for a long time, staring at the empty road. Mia tugged at his shirt. Dad. He looked down. Yeah. Was she really that important? He hesitated. Then he nodded slowly. I think so. Mia smiled slightly. She was nice. David let out a small breath. Yeah, she was. He closed the door and leaned against it, his mind racing. It didn't feel real. None of it did. The storm. The woman. The cars. The words. I want to change your life. He pushed himself off the door and walked to the table. The card was still there. Simple. Elegant. Heavy. He picked it up carefully. His name wasn't on it. Just hers. Elena Voss. And beneath it, an address. A very specific address. David stared at it for a long time. Then Mia spoke again. Are we going to go see her? He looked down at her. Then back at the card. Then around the small house, the worn furniture, the cracked walls, the life he had been fighting so hard to hold together. He exhaled slowly. I don't know, he admitted. But deep down, he already knew. Because something had changed. Not just outside his house, but inside him. And whether he liked it or not. That door he had opened the night before had opened something else entirely. Something bigger than struggle. Bigger than survival. Something that might finally give him a chance. At more. Mia smiled, unaware of the storm that had just passed, and the one that might still be coming. Dad? Yeah. I'm glad you helped her. David looked at her, his expression softening. Me too, he said quietly. And for the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, kindness wasn't a burden. Maybe it was the beginning of everything. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you for watching. If this story moved you in any way, don't forget to like the video, it really helps support more content like this. And I'd love to hear from you, what would you have done if you were in David's situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy cinematic stories like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss the next one. See you in the next story.